Hello and welcome to my first tutorial on this game, or I believe first tutorial in general. I'm going to be showing you how to make a tank. There are many different ways to make a tank. There are replicas, there are custom tanks, there are tanks made for factions that are such as this one. This is also custom. The whole is made from a fictional game called Foxhole. They also have custom tanks. And the turret is ripped off of a British tank destroyer called the Charioteer. I think it's the Charioteer. It has a 77mm gun. And yeah, there are different ways to make a tank, different ways people do it. I'll just be showing you for now how I make my tanks. And yeah, I'll be bringing you through that process. So what I like to do is obviously set your increments. I use 0.025. You use whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. 0.025 is the superior increment, by the way. But I like to start off with the floor. And oh, another thing I should mention is the tank that I made, the tank that I just showed you, is made for a faction. Faction. Made for a server I own called CACO. I'll be, in this case, making a tank that is usable in CACO, I guess you could say. They're not notoriously great against public server tanks, but it's just how I make a tank. So I like to make my floor not very big, plate-wise at least. Oh, I should probably tell you what a plate is. Okay, so in my server, a plate is anything that is 0.15 thick going this way, so like that, and 0.15 there. And anything above that is considered block armor, so 0.175, it'll round up to 0.18. But this is block armor, that's block armor, and you have to make that stuff off collide, so shells coming in, don't get stopped by it. Anything 0.15 and below is fine, you can make that on collide. But, it's your tank, so unless you're in CAC, you don't have to worry about that. But it's just how I make mine. Another thing you'd want to do is, if you're making a custom tank, you want to find... God, that's my email, dude. So if you're making a custom tank, one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to find a reference. This tank is going to be referenced off of the Panther A, which is the superior variant. It's a very simple design. It's just a few angles and flat on the sides. So Panther A 3D model is what you're going to want to look at if you're making... That's not what I want a tank. There you go. I also like to use War Thunder. They have fairly accurate tank models, but I also just use these so I don't have to open up War Thunder. This is a Panther G. It's also not correct. We're not going to use this one. Panther G, Panther. That's also, I think that's a G as well. How about this one? Nope. Well, I probably should have found a 3D model before I started this. Let me go find one. Okay, well, you don't really need a 3D model unless you're making a replica, so I guess these pictures right here will do just... Those will not do just fine. That is tits. I'm not going to look at that. Pictures will do just fine. Doing a replica, you'd probably want a 3D model. Like I said, I'd suggest tanks.gg, which is like... a World of Tanks 3D model. And I believe World of Tanks does 3D scans of their vehicles, so they're probably the most accurate. But yeah, actually, I think this will do just fine. G turret, whatever. That's fine. So we'll use a Panther G 3D model. Doesn't really matter. What I'm making right now is the floor, which is right here, and then after that I'll be making the lower plate and the upper plate. And then I'll probably continue off the sides right here, make this little overhang, and then the sides here. So we're going to have to find and you can make your tank however big you want, but this is going to be scaled to a Roblox character, and people will think that your tanks are slightly small if you do that, but again, this is how I make a tank. So I think this is a size that'll do just fine for me. I like to make them about 4 studs long, something like that. Extend these all. And there are different ways to welding parts of a tank. For the lower plate specifically, I like to make part of the side already here, so that would be about right here. And then find the lower plate angle. I'm just going to put this all in plastic and Universal. Anyway. I can get some lights as well. Let me do that. Let me save this real quick, put some lights in here. Okay, so I've got some lights in here. This should help with some lighting. Go into shadows, you can see your edges a little bit better. So this is just a general shape of the tank that I'd like to make. So I don't really need to look at angles or anything, just whatever would suit my fancy, I guess you could say. So this is the lower plate right here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and plate this, make these welds seamless like that, and yeah, I think that looks good. And actually I'm not gonna section off the plates just yet. Do that later because I'm probably gonna have to change a lot other things. Okay, so that's the lower plate. A little bit small now that I think of it, but that's okay. And this will be the upper plate. Since there's an overhang on this particular vehicle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the wedge only go up to about here. So I won't have a giant wedge sticking out here inside of my vehicle. You'll see what I mean. So I'm going to have the overhang probably about right there. Yeah, right there. And I'll just copy this one over. And once I'm done with this upper plate, I'll show you what I mean earlier. So this up here is where the overhang is going to start. Now that I think of it, it's a little bit too high for the overhang, so I'm going to change that. And then this will be the overhang. So it'll look like that. And that's that part right there. I'll have it 2.45 studs. And it does angle a little bit right here, so the side can angle, so I'll replicate that here as well. I'm actually going to make this overhang a little bit less noticeable, because I'm going to have fenders here that stick out of the side, like about that big. Okay, and this is already turning out to be a pretty large tank, but that doesn't really matter. And that looks good for an upper plate. Now I'm going to make the overhang bit right here, just above the tracks. I'm actually going to make an angle as well, angle down towards the engine. It's at a very slight angle, because we're going to be going about 20 studs. I think that'll do just fine. We'll make the track part. Just like that. Just make it 0.125 so it doesn't overhang there. And our tank's gonna be about that long. Maybe 20 studs. A bit longer, I guess. Yeah. That looks good. My back's gonna angle like the Panther as well, right here. So it's gonna give us a bit more room on the top to play with. And now I'm going to do the roof. I'm going to have this go flush here just to make it more simple. That's a really, really slight angle. I'm going to make that more noticeable. Okay, I think that'll work just fine. So now, what I'll do for the side here is I'm going to do something different from what I did for the upper and lower plate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a different way to weld. This was found out by my friend. He also has a channel. I'll put it in the description, I guess. So basically what you're going to want to do is however thick your plate is right here, I'm just going to make that 0.15. You're going to want to make this wedge here. And this wedge is going to be what your block welds to. That'll be what I use. I'm not very good at explaining things, so I'll just go ahead and show you. So this is going to be like that. So there you go. And we're going to take this wedge and do it like that. Now what you could do is have these so they're on the same plane, while this one is the part that actually puts it on that plane. And this wedge right here actually welds this plate to the bottom of this wedge here. And it works very nicely for welding the side of your tank. It's not the strongest. You're going to have multiple of these. I suggest probably every two plates you have here, and your plates can be like that long or something. But we'll figure that out later. I'm going to connect the side to the front with this wedge here. That works out just fine. There's an ugly overhang right here, but we'll just ignore that. We can probably just shove fenders there and nobody will see. I'm going to make this flush with the track overhang plate. The geometry of this is going to make me have to put a wedge right here as well. So we'll figure that out. So here's the wedge. Put that in. Actually make this smaller so it looks better. So I'm not going to section off the plates here on the side. Same thing I did with the front. Make this one big long plate. Just kind of mapping out how our tank's going to look to begin with. So you can see this is already starting to come together. And I'll replicate this here on this side, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Okay, well, I decided to reshoot this part of the video because I don't want to put an hour and 7-minute long clip in my editor. This shouldn't have taken that long. All that I've shown you already is like plating and such. That's all you need to know. All that I've really done that's necessary enough to mention is the turret ring here. And I did this by just pretty much getting one of these cylinders here. This one is 7.5, I believe, yeah. And pretty much just taking, I'll do it again. I am replicating the length on this circle to just to get the middle, and I'm going to resize this down to 7.5 studs. I don't know if I already mentioned the engine compartment right here versus the fighting compartment. And it's separated by this firewall, which also happens to be welding our roof. But that's there. That's how I welded my roof in this case. I've done that before in other tanks, and it seems like a weak spot, but it really isn't in my experience. Here is the center of the hole, at least width-wise, and that's how big I've chosen to make my turret. I did say a common thing that I see newer tank builders doing is they like to have a large space here to actually have their turret ring, but they don't have a big turret ring, which is a very big handicap to the size of your turret, because this is where you pretty much walk around in, and this is where your crew is at. Speaking of crew, your crew needs to get in your tank, so you know, you got hatches here. They're click doors, nothing special. And I believe I did armoring. Now, I sectioned off plates, and this is very simple. I just took the overall length, and I pretty much divided this by, I think, 5. And I just made the number that I got right here, which is 3.92. That's how big my plates are on the side. On the front, I do usually make them a bit smaller. This is because this is where usually you're going to get shot, so you'd like, you know, a lot more parts up here. And the lower plate, less armor, less parts, just like real life. You're not really going to get shot here as much. Same with behind the tracks. Now, it's a much larger profile, but you're going to have tracks here to give you some extra armor. And up here, more armor because it's closer to the center of mass, which is right here around your turret. Turret is going to be another episode. I'm just going to pretty much just shorten this down because I don't feel like having such a long video. Tracks themselves, drivetrain, like transmission, drive shaft, and the engine here are going to be their separate thing. I'm also going to have fuel tanks, radiators. I'm going to do a detailing thing where I'm going to have like exhausts, bore cleaners, lights, track maintenance tools, things like that. And same with the tracks, wheels, and everything like that. But yeah, I just wanted to make this a little bit shorter because I do not feel like editing an hour and 4 minutes, hour and 7 minutes. But yeah, that's about everything to making a hole. So thank you for watching.